me, Righty here, and I'm gonna review Happy Death Day to you. Alright guys, like all my new movie reviews, I'm gonna keep it short, sweet, simple, and to the motherfucking point. Alright guys, you know the drill. Happy Death Day to You stars Jessica Rothy, and it stars this dude right here, and this dude who's an Asian guy, or an Asian version of me. His name's Ryan in the film. And that's pretty much who it stars. Let's get into it, guys. Happy Death Day to You is another prime example, just like the Lego Movie 2, the second part. It's another perfect example of how to do a sequel the right way. I was so pleasantly surprised to find out that Happy Death Day to You, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing that, I just feel like I have to do that every time I say to you, was a very competent and worthy successor to the original film. I feel like it did a bunch of cool and new interesting things, all while keeping the same integrity and feel of the original film. But that's not to say that it isn't a different film, because this film is kind of a different film than the original Happy Death Day. Or I don't want to say original because it makes it seem like this one's a remake or whatever. But it is very different than the first Happy Death Day film. By that I mean that a good comparison for this film would be like the original Happy Death Day was a slasher film that had a time-traveling, like Groundhog Day element in it. And this film is a Back to the Future type movie with a horror element in it. And I know those two things may sound quite similar, but they're not. Again, to reiterate, Happy Death Day is more horror oriented than this film. This film is still a horror film. I mean, at its core, this is still a horror film. But this film is also it's a love story. It's a film about taking leaps of faith and, you know, kind of realizing like, okay, maybe this bad thing happened to me so that this good thing could happen to me. More, you know, kind of the process of thinking of kind of like one door opens so another one can open, you know, sort of like that, if that makes sense to anybody out there, or if I'm describing it properly. But yes, this film is tonally different than the original Happy Death Day, and it does kind of have a different message than the original Happy Death Day, as opposed to the original Happy Death Day was more about like, hey, don't be such an asshole and don't be afraid to like have some self-improvement, you know, change is okay. This film is kind of, you know, again, kind of driving me that point home, but this movie is also saying like, hey, don't be afraid to do different fucking shit, you know what I mean? Just, I think I may have realized that they both had the same fucking moral.
You're a stupid dumbass.
Whatever. My problem. This film, I don't want to say that it dropped the ball, because it didn't. I enjoyed this film. It was, like I said, a really competent comedic horror film. But at times, it is really messy. It's kind of all over the place. It has a lot going on. So if you're somebody that didn't watch the original Happy Death Day, or haven't watched it in a long time, and you're sitting down watching this one, you're gonna be a little bit confused, because this film kind of jumps around a lot. You know, it's playing a game of a cinematic Frogger and jumping from place to place. But there's gonna be a lot of buts in this review, and not the good kind. This film is carried by Jessica Rothy. Jessica Rothy, I hope I'm saying her last name right, because she deserves it. She does an amazing job in this film. I feel like she is underappreciated, or she doesn't get enough recognition for being so good, as good as she is in these films. So let's take a second and give her some of that appreciation. Jessica Rothy. Okay, back to the review. I kind of feel like I'm rambling, guys, so I'm just going to go out and say it. Happy Death Day to You. It is a great sequel, but it isn't as good as the original one. It's a little bit messier, it's a little bit slower than the original, and it has less of a horror element in this film. So if you're a huge horror fan like I am, that may be a little bit of a negative for you. But that's not that I'm saying that this is a bad film. What I'm saying is, this is a 7.5 film out of 10, which the original Happy Death Day, I rated it an 8 out of 10, and I feel like that still holds up. I watched it last night, and that film is still an 8 out of 10 film. As to where Happy Death Day to You, it's a 7.5 film, just for the simple fact that it's a little bit slower than Happy Death Day, the original film, and it's a little bit more convoluted than Happy Death Day. So for that, I feel like I had to dock it half a point, because those were two things that really, or those were a couple of things that really stood out to me, and that those two things really hurt the film. Alright guys, I'm Ryan T, and the final verdict for this film is 7.5 out of 10. I'm Ryan T, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.